So what is imposter syndrome? In this video, I'm going to talk about all the symptoms of this syndrome, why they're there, and what you can do about it, so you can have more confidence to move forward in your business and towards your financial goals. So what is imposter syndrome? Well, there's so many things involved that it's not just one thing, it's a syndrome, right? Syndrome means a combination of symptoms. So imposter syndrome can show up in many different ways, and it can really get you off track with what you want to create in your life and working towards your goals. So one of the most common things about imposter syndrome is that you feel like a fraud, or you feel phony or fake. And what you say that you do isn't really what you can do. And this is actually a false belief, because we all are capable of what it is we want, right? Maybe we don't have the skill level yet that we want to be at, but we wouldn't be trying to do something if we couldn't do it. And the fact that you're even worried about coming across as a fraud means that you actually really care about what other people think and about yourself. So that should actually be a good thing, because if you're worried about being a fraud, if you're worried that you aren't good enough, then you probably aren't going to tell people that you can do something that you can't do. So I'm going to go over some symptoms of imposter syndrome in a minute, but the problem underneath all of it is it comes down to three things. Either the feeling or the belief that you're not good enough yet, this feeling of inadequacy, that you are not smart enough, you're not skilled enough, you're not good enough, you're not ready enough. That is all because underneath you just have a lot of self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy. The other main contributor to imposter syndrome is this need to prove. So this is based on something that happened long ago in your past, and you've always just been working towards trying to meet somebody's approval. You're just always basically chasing your tail, needing to prove, needing to prove, needing to prove. You never feel like you've arrived. You've never felt like you've proven that you're worthy enough. The other main contributor to imposter syndrome is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of humiliation, fear of shame, and the feeling of anxiety that goes along with that. So there are many ways that imposter syndrome can sneak up on you. One of them is the constant need to improve or to prove yourself. Before you're ready, or before you're worthy to have what you want, you have to prove yourself. So there's always this underlying sense of needing to perform. You're like an overachiever. You're always working towards that next level, that next level, that next level. Like you never arrive. You never feel like, okay, now I'm good. Now I've proven myself. Another one is if you have had success, you look at it as it's something that just happened out of the blue. It was a fluke. It was just luck. It's not something that you created from within. It's not something that you can recreate. Another way it shows up is reluctancy to go after what you really want because you're afraid that you can't achieve it. Another one is downplaying your success, avoiding praise, really backing away. If someone compliments you, you maybe push the attention onto somebody else and you really don't want the attention on you. And that leads into another one where you really avoid being in the spotlight. You really don't want to be visible. You don't want to be center of attention, because if the attention is all on you, then that may highlight where you're lacking or where you might mess up or where you're not good enough. Another way it shows up is you procrastinate because you're worried you're not going to meet someone's needs, so you'd rather not do anything. So you procrastinate. You find something else to do. You watch Netflix or scroll on Facebook. Another way is that you obsess with getting things right. You tweak and revise and redo and just do things over and over and over, trying to get it just right. And underneath that is that you're afraid you're going to make a mistake. Another way it shows up is lack of self-confidence. You're afraid that you can't actually do what it is that you say you can do. Another way is seeking validation. You're always looking for someone else to say, good job, you did it right, yes, you deserve to be celebrated, or yes, you did accomplish that. You're waiting for external validation of your efforts. And then one last way that it shows up is constant comparison to others. So you may be feeling good about something, but then you quickly look to see what someone else has achieved. And then you're like, oh, no, I'm not good enough. They're way better. So there's a lot of symptoms, right? Like that's why they call it a syndrome, because it can show up in so many different ways. But remember, underneath it is really that feeling of lacking adequacy, needing to prove, and having an underlying fear, like a fear of failure or a fear of rejection. If you can overcome imposter syndrome, you will show up more confident, more courageous. You'll go after what it is that you want more powerfully and with bold enthusiasm. And ultimately, you'll have more joy in your life and more contentment. So it's super, super important that we find how imposter syndrome is showing up, how it's holding you back, and overcoming it so that you can get on the other side and feel confident and certain and courageous and achieve all of your hopes and dreams. So when you want to overcome something, the very first step is always to be aware of it. So I just ran through a bunch of scenarios or symptoms or ways that imposter syndrome can show up. So it's important to actually take a pause and notice, how often am I trying to prove myself? How often am I avoiding getting the spotlight put on me? How often am I looking for external validation? How often am I thinking what it is that I'm trying to offer isn't actually good enough, or I'm not ready enough yet, or I need more skills? So how often is that popping up for you? How often are you putting yourself down? How often are you minimizing your accomplishments, downplaying your successes? And then once you actually know how it's showing up, then the next step is going beneath that. What is actually leading you to do those things? What is that underlying fear? What are you afraid is going to happen if you put yourself out there? If the spotlight's on you? If you make a mistake? If you aren't as good as someone else? What's actually at risk? What's going to happen to you? That's how you can get to that underlying fear. And it's usually, again, a fear of rejection, fearing not being good enough, or needing to prove yourself. And then it's important to look at, well, where did that come from? So some people like me, high achievers, they had parents that were very, very focused on getting a good education, doing well in school, right? So you were pushed and pushed and pushed to get all A's, working up to your potential. The focus was on performance. So what would happen if you didn't get all A's? What would happen if you weren't performing? Well, you start to feel like everything, your worth, you being good enough, is based on external validation, like getting A's on your report card. That just reinforces over and over and over that need to perform, and that your value is based on your performance. So of course you have a lot of pressure on you to look good and do the right thing and be right all the time, because if you aren't, then you're not going to get that love, that acceptance, that praise. And again, that started when you were a child. So one way to start breaking free of this is to start praising yourself every time you accomplish anything. So if you say that you're going to brush your teeth in the morning and you say, good job, Debbie. I brushed my teeth. I made my bed. I wrote 3 things on my to-do list. I knocked them all out. Anything that you do, you celebrate, you praise yourself, and you tell yourself, literally look in the mirror and say, good job. You did a great job today. And the more that you celebrate every little tiny thing that you do, the more that you will just build up this built-in reassurance. So again, it doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't matter. Anything that you get done, anything you accomplish, anything you say you're going to do and you actually do it, you celebrate it. You send out an email, good job. You said you were going to make dinner and you did it, good job. You said that you were going to have 4 glasses of water in a day and you did it, good job. Literally every single thing that you do, you train yourself to give yourself praise. And then a big one is that you very frequently take a step back and you look and you ask yourself, okay, what have I accomplished? Where was I last week at this time, last month at this time, last year at this time? And you put a heavy emphasis on how far you've come instead of how much further you feel like you need to go or should have gone, or focusing on this place of where you should be. No, stop that. That is absolutely going to reinforce the imposter syndrome. What you want to do is look back at the past, compare to where you are now, and just keep telling yourself all of the amazing things that you have done, how far you have come. I'm telling you, that will do wonders for your self-esteem and for your confidence, and it'll start chipping away at this imposter syndrome. So ultimately, you need to become your biggest cheerleader. Everything you do, you high five yourself. Literally, you can do that in the mirror. You can high five yourself and say, good job. You did great today. I'm proud of you. Anything that sounds good and feels good that maybe you wish you would have heard more when you were a kid, you get to say it to yourself. And it literally acts like a snowball effect. The more you do that, the more you will start to see the good things you've done, the positive advances that you've made, the accomplishes, the successes. And the more you focus on those, the more of those you will have. Because the more you focus on the lack or what you should have done or where you should be by now, the less you're actually going to do the things that will move you forward. We know that when you focus more on the positive accomplishments and thoughts and emotions, the more likely you're going to do the things that will lead you to where you want to go. Okay, so basically, again, just to review, step one is to just become very aware of how often you are falling into these behaviors that are related to imposter syndrome. How often are you minimizing your accomplishments? How often are you self-critiquing? How often are you comparing yourself? How often are you feeling that sense of inadequacy? And then go a layer deeper. What is it that you're afraid of? And where did this come from? And then step 3, start to celebrate everything you do. I'm telling you, it sounds a little bit silly, but it is going to move mountains. You are going to feel amazing, and you are going to start crushing your goals. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my videos. And I would love for you to leave a comment. How is it that imposter syndrome has shown up in your life? And what is it holding you back from? Why is it important to bust through this? See you soon. Bye.